33 in order to hold a court revision for the garbage drain. Moved by Councillor Martin, second by Councillor Martel. Now, do we're going to do this. Do I still do this? Or do I do this? No, but you could just call a vote on that. You know, all those in favor? Carried. Thank you. So then I will take over from you. Thank you. I will now call on each member, and when I call your name, could you please read your oath? Councilor Van Ness?
I, Jim Van Ness, do solemnly swear that I will, to the best of my judgment and ability, without fear, favor, or partiality, honestly decide the appeals to the Court of Revision from the assessments appearing in the provisional bylaw titled Barbara Green, that may be brought before me for trial as a member of such court.
Councilor Bell?
I, Jeff Darrell, do solemnly swear that I will, to the best of my judgment and ability, without fear, favor, or partiality, honestly decide the appeals to the Court of Revision from the assessments appearing in the provisional bylaws entitled the Barbara Drain, that may be brought before me for trial as a member of such court.
Deputy Mayor Malcolm?
I, Robert Wilhelm, do solemnly swear that I will, to the best of my judgment and ability, without fear, favor, or partiality, honestly decide the appeals to the Court of Revision from the assessments appearing in the provisional bylaws entitled the Barbara Drain, that may be brought before me for trial as a member of such court.
Councilor Van Ness, we will be there next. Court of Revision.
So I'd like to call the Court of Revision to session. We're dealing with the Barbara Drain, dealing with the engineer report dated May 22nd, 2025, and the engineer is Freed and Associates. And I would ask the engineer to give an overview of the Barbara Drain.
So today we have the Barbara Drain, which we previously considered. This drains an area of line 4, Burke Road 139. And it consists of an open portion, a closed portion, as well as a branch, which was a previous drain called the Barbara Sour Branch. It's approximately 2,600 meters long, 30-inch to 15-inch tile. So this total project was about 580,000. I don't believe there's been any appeals to date.
I've not received anything.
For sweet.
Yeah, I don't believe anyone's.
So there have been no objections.
None received, or even verbal.
Are there any persons in attendance who wish to make any comments or ask any questions concerning the proposed assessments? Seeing none, I will ask any members of the Court of Revision if they have any questions or comments or questions for clarification from the engineer. Yeah. Then I guess I would like to
The one where we.
that the Court of Revision for the Barbara Drain does hereby accept the recommendations of Brandon Winder as Free of Associates, and further does hereby confirm the drainage assessments as outlined in the assessment schedule dated May 22nd, 2025.
With Court of Revision numbers too.
Moved by Bob, seconded by Jeff. All in favor? And also then I have a recommendation that the Court of Revision for the Barbara Drain is hereby adjourned at 9:37. Moved by Jeff, seconded by Bob. All in favor? Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. So now I have a recommendation here for the engineer to present the tender results of the Barbara Drain. Randy, you have the floor.
Okay, so the tender closed last Friday. Results haven't been made public, but I believe Lizette has provided you all a letter or summary. There was 4 bids received. We received a bid from, they're in order here. So Robinson's, there were 398,300. There was a bid from Hannon Hamilton, Listwell 445, 300, and one from McNally Excavating, Benwood at 464, 500. There was an additional bid from Manbury Drainage. If the council remembers, when we considered this drain, there was times about a completion date, so completion date was added to this project of October 15th, 2025. Van Bree's gonna need that date, so. We just qualified that. The engineer's estimate on this project for construction was $434,900, so, as you can see, the bid from Robinson is approximately 90% of that. With the savings going to mainly the landowners, but there's a reduction in the two road assessments per county is reduced approximately 13,600, and for South, being the owner of line 4, is approximately saving $700 versus the estimate. We see nothing wrong with the tenders the way they were presented, so our recommendation is to go a little bit.
Any questions for Brandon? You saved us some money.
Well, no, Carl saved this money.
Right, so I have a recommendation here that we. Or sorry, I didn't even, okay, so recommendation that we go with the tender for $398,300 to Robinson Farm Drainage. Moved by Councillor Fitness, second by Councillor Jeff Bell. All those in favor? Aye. Here. Okay, so we are at 7.2, consideration of engineer's report, Hepburn Drain, Branch A. So I have a recommendation of the report, but, sorry, we have to do this, we're gonna do this first, okay. So we're a public meeting, so I'm welcoming everybody. Brandon, I am going to ask you to, lead us through the consideration for the Hepburn Drain Branch A. It is dated June 12th, and the floor is yours, Brandon.
So today we have Hepburn Drain Branch A. This drain was, I guess we were appointed on this drain at the end of May. We had a meeting early June. The owners essentially want this drain constructed for tiling for fall, so this report was issued slightly after in early June. This is a previous report which our office did in 1972. Tony DeVos did. At the time, Branch A, which is just a portion of the Hepburn drainage works, Branch A was mostly incorporated at the top end. So it's previous 1972, indicating it's older than that. So we essentially have a full replacement of Branch A. It runs across essentially 2 or 3 landowners here. It's approximately 1 kilometer, 21-inch tile with some HDP pipe in the wooded area. The drain is designed to a 2-inch coefficient. Most of the landowners have been in attendance. The UTRCA was in attendance. Total project cost is about $178,000, and everything is broken down in the assessment schedules as you see. Pretty straightforward one. There's not much implications on roads. You guys are assessed for road 134, you have small assessments for that, but there's no road crossings, it's all on essentially 2 farms, and the owners would like it built this year.
All right, any persons wishing to comment or ask questions regarding the drainage report, with the design or the details? Seeing none, I'm opening the floor for discussion to the members of council for comment or clarification for the engineer and or the public. Anybody have any questions regarding this? Councilor Vaness?
Just one question, Gary. You mentioned they want it done this year, so would we put a date of like October 15th again, October 31st? Something like that, and I guess the question I have is there enough contractors out there who would still be willing to bid on a job, since we're more than halfway through the year?
Well, my recommendation is put October 31st on it, and based on what we just saw in the Barber Drain, as long as we keep the closing date within the next couple of weeks, I don't see why it's an issue. This job much easier than the Barber Drain. Like the scope of work on this is, you'll receive more bidders. The Barber Drain essentially had 4 road crossings. One was very large. This one is much more straightforward, so there'll be some smaller guys bid on it.
Okay, thank you.
Brandon, if there was a chance we didn't have a meeting, second meeting in July, we had to move to August, is that still okay with you?
Oh, yeah, that's whatever you guys decide, yeah, it doesn't matter to me, the drain's for the owners, and I think one of them's here, maybe he can say when he, there we go.
Mr. Reddy, would you like to comment on that?
Yeah, we'd like to get this done as soon as possible. It's an unusual situation. It starts in our property with through Birch Rock.
Yeah.
And then it goes down through another farm. And we always, in our Birch Rock, we always had tree roots getting in there. And it was a near 12-inch tile. It was always assumed by everybody that the new 12-inch tile went all the way down, but they just replaced the top part of it.
Okay,
So there's another tile in there, which is an old style thin 12-inch tile with ribs on it, which could be 70 or 80 years old, but it's collapsing. So none of the water can get down through them, the surface water running on top of it. That was the problem. You don't get good drainage, plus the mud droplings running up to the surface and making gullies in there, and that it should be addressed.
I understand that, I'm just wondering, Brandon, if there's a difference between putting the tender out for 2 weeks, could I have it at the August meeting, would that affect it for October?
I would say no.
They can still do it by
Yes.
October, whether or not we give them August or.
To be honest, if we are going to not award it till, was that one of the dates, because she's the expert at that. My suggestion is you at least put it out for tender and extend the closing date, at least then they know it's there.
Okay. We can do that, okay. Okay, so it would be out for tender if you would close.
Oh,
Sorry,
I just wondered, are we, if we're gonna cancel the July meeting, should we not discuss that?
yeah, I'm just looking at the potential, because that was the only thing that I had, was aware. So there is a potential of, because, when is an appropriate time to talk about that? But there is a potential for that second July meeting, that would be the only thing on the agenda at this current
I
time.
just thought if it's gonna impact things that we're making decisions on.
Yeah.
We're gonna talk about it early.
And I could also speak to the fact that, even though we try to get the tenders and, notices out quickly, July 22nd is a tight timeframe for us as well. So the August 5th meeting would work better for staff.
To be honest, you guys are still faster than most municipalities.
Yes, we are. We don't like it hanging around.
Okay, so I'm asking to acquire any persons, including members of council, who wish to withdraw or add their names to the petition. Okay, seeing none, I'm calling the drainage engineer, drainage superintendent to explain the next steps in the process, including the appeal process if the drainage report is adopted and the court of revision process.
So the next process is court revision, and it sounds like Lizette hasn't got the date narrowed down yet, so.
Well, I do.
Once she has that date, and then we'll have a date for tenders, and if there is appeals with assessments, that's when it can be dealt with.
Do you want to discuss dates right now, or?
So if we could adopt the report first, that would be fantastic.
Okay, so to request a resolution to receive and adopt the report, moved by Deputy Mayor Wilhelm, second by Councillor Corview, all those in favor, carried. So now I'm requesting a resolution to set a date for the court of revision, so suggested date for court of revision.
I would recommend August 5th at the August 5th meeting at 9:30 a.m.
All right, do you need a mover and a seconder for that?
So we do have a resolution, and then we would also call for tenders with a closing date of, it's the Friday before.
First.
August 1st.
Friday before, yep.
So I would recommend that we have the quarter revision August 5th, at 9:30 with tender, closing August 1st at noon. And then the tender results will be announced at the meeting after the quarter revision, was completed with no appeals.
Okay, so do you want me to read this first?
So you already adopted the report, you just did it in your own rules, so it's all good, so now we're.
So recommendation that the Board of Revision for the Hepburn Drain Branch A be set for August 5th, 2025 at 9:30 a.m. and that the drainage engineer be authorized to call for tenders for a closing date of August 1st, 2025. Moved by Councilor Jeff Bell, second by Councilor Mark Bell. All those in favor? Carried. So now we are resuming the regular council meeting. Okay. Now we are at 7.2, public hearing, committee of adjustment for the minor variance. Thank you for coming in. See you, Bob. Okay, so where would you like to start? Okay, so the committee of adjustment will now hold a public hearing to consider a minor variance application. The application is for the property currently owned by Ron and Pat Wooters. Application A03-2025. The property is lot 14, section 11, Downey Ward 3649, line 9. Now, this hearing is an opportunity for the township to advise the public of the purpose and intent of the minor variance and receive their input prior to making a decision. So I'm advising that any person present who wishes to receive written notice of the decision be made that is made by the Committee of Adjustment be asked to give their name and mailing address to the Secretary Treasurer at this time. Cheryl, can you provide your mailing address, please?
Yep, 3636 line 9, St. Paul's, Ontario.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else?
Mike Raylan, 3704 line 9.
Okay, all persons attending this hearing will be given an opportunity to be heard and to make a presentation. So I will now call on the county planner to present the planning report and recommendations. Haley, you have.
Good morning, Mayor and Councilors. I will be presenting minor variance application A03-2025 for lands municipally known as 3649 line 9 in the Township of Perth. Subject lands are approximately 40.01 hectares in total lot area and contain a single detached dwelling, a livestock barn which houses 2,500 feeder swine, a manure pit, 9 grain bins, and an equipment storage shed. The subject lands are serviced by a private well and septic, and the proposed construction of a new barn will hold 1,750 new gilts. Next slide, please. The application is requesting relief from section 6.4.1 of the Township of Perth South zoning bylaw to facilitate the construction of a 2,741 square meter gilt barn. The barn is an extension of the existing swine operation and currently has a liquid manure pit to host the capacity of the manure on the subject lands. The relief requested is to reduce the required minimum distance setback from MDS2 444.39 meters to 357.83 meters. Relief is requested due to the residential dwelling to the immediate north of the subject lands. The residence is located 357.83 meters from the Skill Farm. Surrounding land uses include predominantly cropland, a dairy barn to the north, and the Zora Township boundary to the immediate south. Although representing a reduction of approximately 20% compared to the required setback, it is understood that the proposed location represents an efficient use of land and would minimize additional agricultural lands being removed from production by keeping the barn in closer proximity to the existing built-up area. The MDS implementation guideline indicates that evaluating a proposed variance requires a review of surrounding land uses, environmental impacts, safety, and practicality. In regards to the subject lands, the surrounding area is predominantly agricultural. The proposed reduction to the MDS2 setback for the construction of the gilt barn for pigs is considered beneficial as it minimizes the encroachment into productive farmland compared to the required setback, which would further intrude into prime agricultural land. Planning staff are of the opinion that the proposed is considered to maintain the general intent and purpose of the bylaw and of the official plan pursuant to section 45(1) of the Planning Act. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
I will now ask the Secretary Treasurer to provide any comments received for the circulated agencies and line items.
Thank you, Chair. A letter was received from one of the neighboring properties, which I circulated yesterday. And it was received from Cheryl Van Dam. An additional piece of correspondence outlining her reasons to the opposition to the proposal was circulated this morning. Copies were placed on your desk. I forgot my glasses, so I'm not sure I can read it out loud. But I'm happy to try and read it out loud if the committee wishes.
Do the councilors wish for her to read it out loud? I think everybody has a copy on their desk.
Cheryl Van Dam is also present, so if
Okay. So is there anyone present who wishes to make a presentation or speak in opposition of the application? And I again request you to give your name and address for the record when they are recognized. Cheryl, would you like to do? Yes. And you're welcome to come up here tonight. Yep. Sure. If it makes you more nervous, you can stay where you are.
I might need my copy back of my. You got. Thank you. All right, so, I was totally unaware of this until Sunday, so I apologize to the counselors that I had to try to wrangle everybody in one day. I was on holidays, and due to the fact that this thing was so short, I almost missed it. I had no prior understanding that this was coming. I also had no prior understanding that here in Perth County in South Perth, living beside pig barns your whole life, that they would, in this day and age, be allowed a little bit closer to my home than they have already been. All right. I talked to many counselors and they said they thought it was just an addition. As you and I know, you can make anything an addition. The size of this barn is not an addition. It is a full-blown barn with an attachment to the other one. Okay. So I'll read my letter. I have always got along with Ron Pat fine. I don't want a neighborhood dispute. I've never complained. I am a farmer myself. I understand smells. I worked in pig farms. I grew up in a pig and beef farm. I'm not an unreasonable person. But this kind of doubling of the head of livestock is going to extensively affect my life and my lifestyle. And there is no way around it. And to have to read a paper where planners make an opinion that this was not a big deal is pretty hard to read. When they are not farmers and they don't live there. Okay. One of my questions, real quick, my neighbor brought it to my attention. Is the address correct? Lot 14, concession 11? Because I'm concession 10 across the road. I know concession 11 is the back of the farm. Are you guys concession 11 right up to the road?
Yeah.
Okay, a neighbor asked me to ask that. I just needed to make sure the addresses were correct. Yeah, okay, just making sure that one. So. What I will read to you, what I want to ask, and maybe I can ask Ron, because this is such short notice for me. I didn't have time to research. How big is the barn that you have now? How big square footage is that one that you're adding on to? What is it right now?
Cheryl, if, because we're in this, you have to address it to the council and then.
Oh,
we'll
sorry.
give Ron
Okay,
the
thank you.
opportunity to.
Okay,
to
so
answer later.
I just have a few questions for Ron, because I haven't had time to do the legwork. I just haven't had time to do it. It's been so short.
No problem.
I want to know the square footage of the barn that's there now and how many pigs are in there. And then I want to know what the square footage, which I do have the square footage of the new build. Okay, of the addition, okay? And the addition is 29,000 square feet and 1,750 new head across the road, and closer than the barns are now. Okay,
Our chief building officials here, Martin, did you want to answer that?
Sure, I can answer that. So we've done the NDS calculations through, AgriSuite, which is the software that's provided by Open Offer. According to, the information that we had, the existing barn is, 2,500, head of feeders. It's 25,752 square feet approximately. The new barn with 1,750 gilts is estimated to be about 26,250.
so we're sort of similar, not quite bigger, but darn close. So this is not a small addition. This is a full-blown another barn connected to look like an addition. Okay, we know how it works. All right, if he was building a brand new barn without all of this, he would have to be miles from me. But because those buildings are there, this is considered an addition. And this is how this is working. And one of the things I would really appreciate it is if my neighbors had come and talked to me about my drawings in my home are on this drawing. And my neighbors, who I do get along with, don't even come to talk to me about and put up a sign, and I almost miss this. Okay? So I'm all about neighborhood, I'm all about kindness, I'm all about decency and being good neighbors. And I believe good boundaries and fences make good neighbors. And the NDS is what they do. That is what that does. It is supposed to keep the neighbors at peace because we keep proper boundaries with each other. And the reality is, I've never complained around and had, but if you come to my house on a Saturday night, and in the summer when it's hot, even when we had cows, it was a joke that we could look at the cows and smell the pig. Okay, we don't smell cows, we smell pigs. It is that bad. All right, it's not like that every day. And yes, the prevailing winds do affect it. But the worst thing in the world is the beautiful warm summer, when you want to have a bonfire and you want to sit outside with your family and enjoy yourself. And when I'm stuck in my house in air conditioning, and I can't invite my friends and family over to my own home in one of the most beautiful, like, counties in the world. And this is okay in this county. I'm a farmer. We hauled manure, we had cows, we had all of those things too. And I have patience, but all I'm asking is someone not to build a pig barn closer to my property than is already there. But I apologize if I'm emotional.
Okay.
And I thought I had nicer neighbors than this. So I'll read my little letter to you guys.
Sure.
And so Ron can hear it. My letter is in regards to the request for a minor variance. As a resident of Perth South, I'm asking council to vote against the minor variance. I've been the owner of 3636 Line 9 for the past 28 years. And the residents of my business and my home. I'm sorry, guys, that I know it's not professional, but I can't do it.
I'm happy to read the letter for you if you wish.
Okay. Somebody good idea.
Okay, I have been an owner of 3636 Line 9 for the past 28 years. This residence is my business and my home. The property of Ron and Pat Wooters today is an industrial work site. We are exposed to an incredible amount of truck traffic that damages roads and is dusty and dirty. The feed mill uses a generator that is loud and can be heard on my property daily. They have a grain elevator system and dryers that run for months. This creates a lot of noise and dust. Due to this, we can no longer open our windows for harvest to December, forcing us to install air conditioning. The dryer runs for about 4 to 5 months. I was hospitalized for allergy 3 years ago and I could not go outside my home. I can no longer hang laundry outside due to the smells and the dust. The barns have always been an issue with the odor. My driveway is long and has been protected us from the worst of the odor issue. At the end of my driveway, we smell pigs most days. On a humid, warm day, the sunny night on my back deck, we will smell pigs. This has been like that since the day I moved in. I am a farmer and I understand agricultural and animal husbandry. I grew up on a pig and beef farm. My concern is that the new barn in my residence will destroy the buffer zone I now have for the odor, dust and dirt, or any sickness the pigs carry. Moving a barn closer to my home by 86.56 meters or 283.98 feet and adding 1,750 pigs to the already 2,500 head facility no longer is a minor issue. This is the potential to seriously affect my property and the health and the well-being of my family. Thank you to the councillors of First South for hearing our concerns. Sincerely, Cheryl Van Dam and the Van Dam family.
So what I was talking about is I'm a farmer. Those are the things I've experienced over the years. I don't complain to Ron and Pat about them. It's business. I understand business. But it's a lot. And I would say the majority of people sitting in this room don't experience that on a daily basis. And where I live, it is big agriculture back in the Glory Down, and that's fine. I understand that. But when I can't sit on my back porch anymore, and I can't entertain family and friends, I have to leave my home. I'm stuck in my home with windows shut. All right, and 3 years ago that started. I'm guessing it was a new dryer. I don't pay attention to all of that. But the reality is what Ron and Pat have is not a farm, it's an industrial work zone today. And adding this building is again, it's not a farm anymore. It is now turned into a massive industrial business. And these variances are old systems that were made so a dairy farmer could put a lien on his farm and add a few cows because he had 100 acres. He didn't have more farms. Ron and Pat have many, many farms. They have many places to build big barns, many places. That could be much farther away from another residence than this. So I understand these laws. I was explained that this will go through regardless, and that Ron can build as big a barn as he wants. He will start now, and in 3 years from now, he will expand it to make it this big anyway. So I'm asking the councillors what they think about this, how they think about their community, and keeping the peace between the neighbors. I do a massive amount of landscaping and gardening. I love my home. I'm a home farmer. And it's very hard to be in your home with this, let alone I cannot predict what is going to happen with doubling the livestock size across the road from me. There is no way. I worked in pig barns. I've fed them. I've worked in them for years. There is a buffer zone outside of them of the smell and noise and dirt. And that is the reality to that. And no prevailing wind can change that. And that is why you have the MDS, is to stop. So I'm not sure if there's anything else I have to say, or if anybody has any questions.
Would any other landowners like to speak? I'm just wondering, you're gonna speak in favor of it though, even if they're very specifically that it's in.
We do the opposition first and then it comes in favor.
Yeah, we're gonna do the opposition first and then the ones in favor. Anybody else would like to speak? You're welcome.
I just think that rules and regulations are in place for a reason. And there's nothing wrong with upholding them.
And I-
Sorry, Mike Whalen, 3704.
Thank you.
And I have, just to end, I have no problem with Ron building a barn. I don't. It's this wanting to push closer to me than he already is. So my request is that Ron keep the barns back to the 444 away from my home. That is all I want. He can build his barn, he can do all that. It's just adding so many more head of livestock closer to my residential residence is not very good for people.
All right, seeing no other people here for opposition, is there anyone present by video conference or wishes to make a presentation in favor to speak into the application other than the applicant and agent? And I would request they give their name and address for the record so they are recognized. Would you like to speak in favor of it?
Sure.
Yes, so Ron Neuter,
6 Farm.
Go ahead.
Just one comment I want to make to you, Cheryl. You talk about barns being closer. 7 years ago, I tore down all those barns that were a lot closer to you.
They were,
And we moved everything back,
Mhm.
right? And we did that 7 years ago, so, you know,
okay,
I like, we're trying, like, these new
Yeah.
barns, they got all chimney ventilation. You are to the north.
Mhm.
So the prevailing
But-
winds.
but
that's
on
the
those
rule of
days
thumb.
with no wind,
Well, and you're right, I won't argue that,
that you can't change.
yeah, and we have livestock all around us.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, so, and I hear you in this business.
It's business, but it's people's lives too.
Yeah.
Right?
But I just wanna make it clear that we moved, that we tore all them old barns.
Good.
That were close to you,
Thank
a
you.
lot closer,
Yeah. Thank you.
and moved it back.
Okay.
I just wanna make that clear.
No further comments from anyone? Are there any questions for the committee good? Would anybody like to ask any questions? Deputy Mayor Lemon?
Just a question for Ron, I guess, is there an alternative to put this barn on the property? Like other side, close to the manure tank? Well, that's all gone too now, like, we did talk about flipping it, putting it on the other side at one time. But we thought for saving agricultural land and just everything else would be better on this side. So if you're up the driveway, we're on gonna be on the left side now instead of, we did talk about going to the right side.
Any other questions from any of the councilors? Councilor Jeff?
Sorry, Ron, is this an attach to the, like, is the proposal to attach it to the existing barn? Or is there gonna be
It'll be,
separation?
40 feet in between. Oh, that's kind of good.
And it just, it's not feasible to put it on the other side of the manure plant?
Oh, we can look at it, it just makes more sense to be on that side because of losing less arable land.
Haley, would you like to comment?
Yes, through the chair, there's a residence closer on that side, so it would be the same situation. If they were to put it on the other side, they would have to meet the MDS for that residence over there because it'd be moving closer to that residence. So either side, that's going to be affected by MDS.
Any further questions, Councilor Bennett?
Question for Haley. The drawing we have here. I've made it as big as I can, I still can't quite figure it out. The new barn will be closer than the old barn by how much to the Van Dam residence? I don't see that, the dimension on here.
Martin?
I'm just gonna pull it up, sorry.
Martin, would you?
I have the report, it's just loading, sorry.
You mean the existing barn?
Yeah,
I'm not sure, through the chair, I'm not sure if it is that much closer than the existing barn, but because of the increase in nutrient units, the MDS would be greater.
correct. Correct. So if this barn was put on the end of the other barn, would that,
Based on nutrient.
it's based on nutrient units and it would go to the, yeah, I don't know for sure, but I don't think it would be far enough away.
you were what, 80 meters too close with the NDS right now, am I correct?
86.
86 meters, you're roughly, what is that, 250 feet? Something like that, so. I just thought possibly it could go on the end. So what, also, there's a question here I have, between the driving shed and the barn in there, I'm speculating here, it looks like there's about 60, 70 feet in there. Could we put a row of trees east-west instead of north-south? Or a row of pine trees in, is that an option?
That would be up to the opponent.
Yeah, that would be after that.
That has no effect on.
No, I didn't expect it would, no, it's just a question, that's all. Okay, that's it.
Councilor Martin?
So when we discuss this, usually we've had maps that have the MDS on that. Do we have that available for us? Cause it's hard to sort of see how close we are.
I don't have it attached. We have it in your packet. So.
So there is no option currently that's going to put it within MDS.
They would have to meet that 444 meters, so they'd have to push it further down.
So it could go on the end of the existing farm.
I'd have to
going
do
to
the
the side
measurement,
of
I'm
either-
not sure how far the end of that barn is to the residence, so I'd have to do a calculation.
Okay. Just, yeah, it's easier for us to discuss this when we're provided those, it's nice circle them. Right.
If I could, through the chair, the way that Egger Street works or the MDS2 works. As of now, they could add an additional 875 gilts to this operation. And there would be no planning application. In 3 years' time, they could come back and add another 875 gilts to that operation. And they would get credit for the amount of units that are there, and there would be no planning application required. So essentially, what the proponent is asking for is a relief in the timelines.
So if this was a 800 heavy bar,
We would
we
just
wouldn't
build
be
it.
sitting here.
No.
Right.
And then in 3 years' time, if you come back and add the additional 875, and we wouldn't.
Councilor Marco?
Just some clarification, when I look over to, I mean, I don't understand, and the MDS would be helpful because usually it's a, spans out of the circle. So behind the green out there, I'm not sure why there can't be a barn there. There's a bush in between the next neighbor. Or which neighbor are we speaking of, the one that's to the north? Is that what we're speaking of, or?
The Wellington to the northwest, yeah.
Northwest, yeah, okay.
Yes.
Okay. So if that was an option, then it'd have to be pushed to the south.
We would still be in the same situation because the MDS could be met. Well,
Okay. So the other option would be driveway back into the field. If it was on the, let's call it that, the west side of the manure pit.
Through the chair, they would have to push it to meet that 444 meters. I have the MDS map, I don't know how to show everybody. Everybody get a magnifying on this.
Or maybe if you wanna walk around this, and then for future use, for future counselors, if you have these questions, please ask her ahead of time and she could get that information to you. And I'll ask her to include it.
Yes, it used to be included.
So this is some of stuff.
But we're not meeting the requirements with this house already.
That one's followed up too, though.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because when we measured it, it did,
It did, yes,
so this is wrong.
yes.
So this is wrong. Sorry. We did measure the house to the northwest. Yeah, and it does meet the MDS, but hers does not, Cheryl's does not. So this map is not showing that correctly.
Councilor Harvey?
Just one comment, it looks like to me, we're gonna use up agricultural land wherever it is.
Mhm.
So. Like, why couldn't it be on the other side where the your tank is? Like, is it something that we could consider if we go back to, like, I don't know, Ron, if you wanna.
Go ahead, Haley. Through the chair, have to defer this application and we would have to redo the numbers for his barn, because he has proposed it in this location for this application. So we would have to redo the application to do it on the other side. I will just state, that this location is more preferred from a provincial, standpoint, just because it is removing or reducing the removal of agricultural land in the middle of the field, because we will have to add a driveway and space with that. since it's already a built up area, we just want to get that built up area.
Any other questions, the council will found?
So, Haley, just for clarification.
Yeah.
If this had meant the MDS, we wouldn't be sitting here having this discussion, correct?
Through the chair, yes, like Martin said, in 3 years, they can proceed as is without it, but since they are permitted half the barn, they'd like to build the whole barn at the same time.
Any other questions, comments? All right, so now the committee will consider a resolution regarding the application. I will read it and see where it goes. Recommendation that the Township of Perth South Committee of Adjustment approve application file MB 3/2025 submitted by Patron Farms for lands described as concession 11 lot 14 or municipally known as 364999 as it relates to 1, the relief from section 6.4.1 to reduce the minimum distance setback, 2, requirement from 444.39 to 357.83 meters to facilitate the construction of a 2,741 meter squared gilt farm subject to the following conditions. That the minor variance only applies to the proposal as applied for, and 2, that the owner obtain the necessary building permits within 2 years of the approval of the minor variance. Moved by Councilor Vaness. Anyone else want to put it on the floor?
Second.
Deputy Mayor Wilhelm, so the proposal's on the floor, open for comment.
Yeah, I would like to have seen the proposal for the barn on the other side of the pit. I don't consider this a minor variance. However, on the other hand, Ron can go ahead and, as Martin said, build barn half that size and the following year double. And we have no say. So I don't know, perhaps Ron would reconsider it and maybe it would make everybody happier if it was on the other side, or at least his neighbors on the other side. So those are my comments.
Haley, would you like to comment?
If you are requesting that he puts it on the other side, I would recommend that council defer it, so that it gives him the opportunity to go back and think about this, rather than deny it, so that he doesn't have to submit another application to do it again.
Go ahead. So we currently have a motion on the floor.
Yeah.
So, you can either amend the motion if that's for vote on this current motion.
What happens if it's voted for or again, or voted down, I guess? Then we can't defer it, right?
Correct.
And then I understand we could build the barn where it is, as is with only half of it, and in 3 years come back and finish the barn. Or we have the option of trying to get him to move the barn to the other side. It'll still be that big. It's just a location change. What would council like to do? Would you like to amend?
But let's amend it to defer it, and then has the decision, you can build half or rest, or he can work with the planner, try and get the right distances from, I assume that's still the Featherstone house there, and whether that's renewable or not, I don't know. I will defer or change my motion to
Maybe that, or should I called it and we should deny that one and then have another motion to discuss?
yeah,
Can you withdraw this?
yeah.
Okay, so withdrawing the recommendation.
Yes.
All right,
Then Jim's gonna put a proposal.
To defer it.
so motion to defer,
I'll second that, but when it comes back, I would like to see the MDS on the documents too, for all the houses and rest in the area.
okay, and are
The
you,
only thing is it might not come back.
right,
Right, the owner has an opportunity, or has the right to build house.
yes,
Yes, you.
can I ask, are you in a hurry to do this?
No, I got time.
Okay.
We're okay.
Councillor Jeffа?
Yeah, so again, if I agree with deferring, I'm absolutely not against building barns, absolutely not. I think the MDS needs to be met.
And the only thing we wanted to do, if we wanted to do it all at once, it just made it a little more efficient, that's all, that's all. Or like, Mark and I, we talked about it quite a bit, that's all.
Okay, so there's a motion on the floor to defer this application to see if you can move it, and it may or may not come back to us. So,
One more comment, through I do not see where we would lose any more agricultural land doing it to the other side of the Pepper.
well, let's see what they come back. So motion on the floor, moved by Councillor Manette, seconded by Deputy Mayor. All those in favor to defer this for further information? Call the vote, carried. So there is a deferral.
So you'll be notified if it's.
Okay.
The same.
Yeah. All right. So that's it for. All right. Haley, we are at the 7.4, the planner with self application 305-25. Which is verifying for human.
I promise I am.
Okay, thank you for.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, no problem.
So. It should be, I think there were just people working in on it, so, yeah, they'll run.
I'll just make sure.
All right. They're gonna open the door. I can see people in there.
Yeah, sorry, I only closed it because it was hard to read the reading.
Appreciate it. All right, go ahead.
Okay.
We close the building.
Yeah. You need your consent. Okay, thank you. I'm presenting consent application. Oh, sorry, did you already do your?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I'm presenting consent application B05-25 for a farm split severance located at 2378 Road 130A in the Township of Perth. Next slide, please. The subject application proposes to create an agricultural lot and retain lands for the same purposes. The severed lands are approximately 31.99 hectares in area, while the retained lands are approximately 30.97 hectares in area. The severed lands are vacant of any buildings and are used for agricultural crop production. The lands contain a woodlot towards the rear portion of the lot, which is approximately 2.55 hectares in area. The retained lands contain a dairy operation and agricultural lands with a single detached dwelling, private well, and septic. The official plan provides direction on a minimum lot area of 40 hectares for agricultural lands. Although the proposed severed and retained lands do not meet the minimum, they both exceed the Township of Perth's minimum lot size requirement of 30 hectares for agricultural lots. As such, both parcels are sufficient size to support ongoing and future agricultural activities, including flexibility for crop rotation and farm management. In light of the foregoing, staff are supportive of the proposed severance and are of the opinion that the application is consistent with the Provincial Planning Statement 2024 and conforms with the County of Perth official plan, subject to the recommended conditions of consent approval being fulfilled. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Haley? Councillor Martin?
Were these once separate lots?
Through the chair, I don't believe
So
so.
they're lot 16 and 17. Were they joined by,
They-
were purchased by the same person at one point?
It would have merged on paper, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It could have possibly, but
Okay, it looks like quite a large lot.
yeah.
Any other questions for Haley? Councillor Vanessa?
Just one question. If this severance goes through, does that affect the present owner of that livestock facility or a future owner, the ability to expand?
So through the chair, we have done MDS as part of this application, and there's no effect right now because there's no house, but if there is to be a house, we have done the calculation that it has to be up in the top corner, that won't affect the livestock facility.
Okay, so
You can
if they
expand.
do put a house on this yellow segment here.
Yeah.
it would have to be, it's MDS one then, I guess, is it?
Yes,
It would be at the far end of the property.
yes, correct.
Yeah, thank you.
Any further questions? All right, I have a recommendation that the Township of Perth Council advise the Land Management Committee or its delegated authority that the Township of Perth supports the application file B 05-25 submitted on behalf of Cosmo Dairy Limited, owner for lands described as concession north BDY lots 16 and 17 municipally known as 2378, Road 130A, subject to the conditions listed in the report dated July 8th, 2025. Moved by Councillor Jeff Bell, second by Councillor Corview. All those in favor? That's carried. We are at 7.5 Haley for consent application 2025.
Alright, thank you. I'll be presenting consent application B 20-25 for surplus farm dwelling severance located at 3680 line 9 in the Township of Perth. Next slide, please. The subject application proposes to sever a surplus farm dwelling residence that will result in a farm consolidation. The consolidated farm operation is owned by Henry Sturkenberg. The applicants are requesting a severed portion of the land with an area of approximately 0.36 hectares and an approximate lot frontage of 40 meters on line 9. The severed lands contain an existing single detached dwelling, private well, and septic. The lands to be retained are approximately 19.8 hectares in area with an approximate lot frontage of 358.2 meters on line 9. There are no existing structures proposed to remain on the retained lands. A condition of consent has been included that will impose restrictions on future permitted uses of the severed land and retained lots through adoption of the required zoning bylaw amendment. The condition requiring a ZBA has been recommended to satisfy the requirements of the 2024 PPS and the County of Perth official plan. In light of the foregoing, staff are supportive of the proposed severance and are of the opinion that the application is consistent with the provincial planning statement 2024 and conforms with the County of Perth official plan, subject to the recommended conditions of consent approval being fulfilled. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Haley? Pretty straightforward. So I have a recommendation that the Township of Perth Council advise the Land Division Committee or its delegated authority that the Township of Perth supports application file B 20-2025 submitted by Henry and Maria Sturkenberg for lands described as concession WORW Part 54, municipally known as 3860 line 9, subject to the conditions listed in the report dated July 8th, 2025. Moved by Councillor Corview, second by Deputy Mayor Wilhelm. All those in favor? Carried. And Haley, you have one more report. Agenda 6, consent application B 21-25. Floor is yours.
Just gotta wait for the visuals. Okay. Thank you. I'll be presenting consent application B 21-25 for a surplus farm dwelling severance located at 2129 Road 133 in the Township of Perth. Next slide, please. The subject application proposes to sever a surplus farm dwelling residence that will result in a farm consolidation. The consolidated farm operation is owned by Joe Vaness. The applicants are requesting a severed portion of land with an area of approximately 0.76 hectares and an approximate lot frontage of 10.4 meters on Road 133. The severed lands contain an existing single detached dwelling, storage shed, private well, and septic. The lands to be retained are approximately 28.42 hectares in area with an approximate lot frontage of 394 meters on Road 133. There will be a cattle barn proposed to remain on the retained lands, which will be required to proceed through a change of use permit. A condition of consent has been included that will impose restrictions on future permitted uses of the severed and retained lots through adoption of a required zoning bylaw amendment. The condition requiring ZBA has been recommended to satisfy the requirements of the 2024 PPS and the County of Perth official plan. Additionally, a small portion of the driveway on the subject lands is located within an area designated as floodplain under the County of Perth official plan. However, the severed lot contains an existing single detached dwelling, a storage shed, and private well and septic system. These structures are already in place and no development or intensification is proposed within the floodplain. As such, the consent does not introduce additional risks or conflict with the section 5.22 of the PPS, which directs development away from the hazardous lands. As the proposed severance does not involve new development in the hazardous area, but rather recognizes an existing residential use. In light of the foregoing, staff are supportive of the proposed severance and are of the opinion that the application is consistent with the provincial planning statement 2024 and conforms with the Town of Perth official plan, subject to the recommended conditions of consent approval being fulfilled. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Haley? Councilor Nuts?
Well, you're. Just a question, I apologize, Taylor, I
Yes.
didn't get time to drive by that, so, is there a separate farm entrance off the road to the lands?
Through the chair, I don't believe so, but I think the condition of the consent is that they both have appropriate entrances to the.
So there will be a separate.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, I have a recommendation that the Township of Perth South Council advise the land division committee. Oh, I'm sorry.
I just had a little,
Oh, go ahead.
yeah, sorry,
Go
I'm a
ahead.
little late.
Councilor Raquel?
Normally, we, when there's severances, there's no buildings left on. You mentioned a change of use, can you just walk us through that?
Through the chair, if there is any buildings on a retained lot that is an agricultural. It could house livestock, we go through a change of use permit to limit the MDS restriction because it wouldn't actually be permitted there. If it was to exist as a livestock farm because the residential use, so that's why it's a change of use permit, so if the. Purchaser would like to still use the building for hay storage, so that's why the building is remaining.
Okay, so the parking shed is going to remain with the resident,
Yes,
and then the cattle shed is gonna be used by the farmer.
correct,
Okay, so that's why it's a odd shape.
yes.
But we're not making them take it down.
Through the chair, no, they store old cars there, so he would prefer to keep it with her residence.
All right,
Great.
sorry about that.
No, it's slow, it's fine.
So I have a recommendation that the Township of Perth South Council advise the Land Division Committee or its delegated authority that the township supports application file B 21-25 submitted by Joel and Patty Drinkwater Walter for lands described as concession 16, part lot 11, municipally known as 2129, Field 133, subject to the conditions listed in the report dated July 8th, 2025. Moved by Councilor Martel, second by Councilor Corview. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you, Haley. Just wondering, by the way, congratulations, I think you've been here a year.
I have this, thank you.
I'm just wondering for future, if we could go back to having that circle report.
Yes, of course, yes,
That's
sorry.
very,
That was a
very
helpful.
helpful.
Yes.
Thank you very much. And one other question, do you have anything pressing, that might come up in the next 2 weeks?
I do not, it can be pushed to the office meeting.
Okay, thank you. Okay, item 8, we are at reports. Martin, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor Orr, members of council. My activity reports before you there, we remain fairly steady in the building department. The month we had over 2.3 million in construction value and 14,500 collected in permit fees. For the first half of the year, it's been significant. 74 building permits. We have $48.5 million in construction value. And almost 164,000 in permit fees so far. Permit or inspections as well. The building department did 47 inspections last month. That was me, myself. That's not including the ones we had through the reciprocal agreement. I managed to sneak away for a few days. At the time I wrote this report, we had 10 permits in the queue, but we now have 17. So we're busy. Yeah, it's good. It's good. It's gonna be a record-setting year, and we're looking forward to helping everybody with their building activity. No new bylaw enforcement or property standards for the month of June. That's it in a nutshell. I'm happy to be closed.
Any questions for Martin? Councilor Martin?
Just curious. And think, how many of your permits are coming in through your new online portal?
I would say, don't quote me on this, but probably 25%. Yeah, once people learn about it and learn how to use it, it's gaining some traction, so we're excited with it.
Does that help you?
Yes, it does, yeah. There's a lot less going back and forth helping the applicant with things, and they just upload everything and it comes right with my email. So, yeah, it really helps.
Any further questions? Councilor Marco?
If it helps, can we advertise it a little bit more? To make sure that we put it in our next newsletter, that kind of thing. That's the good word, yeah, good word. Absolutely.
Okay, so I have a recommendation that the CDO update report be received for information. Moved by Councilor Vanessa, second by Councilor Jeff Bell, all those in favor? Carried. We have a report for the signed bylaw exemption request.
I do, through you, Mayor, or asking for direction from council for relief from bylaw 646 2019. The building department received a sign permit application to install a new billboard sign at 1805 Road 164, Highway 23, just outside of Kirkton. The design of the sign is 16 feet wide and a total height of 16 feet from grade. The applicant has received the necessary approvals from the Ministry of Transportation and the Upper Thames River Conservation Authority. Under the bylaw 46-2019, billboard signs are permitted within the agricultural zone, and the proposed sign complies with the size and height requirements. However, billboard signs are not permitted within 1,500 meters of a hamlet or village. Upon review of the proposed application, the sign was approximately 125 meters from the settlement boundary of Kirkton. As a result, we could not issue the permit. The applicant has since requested relief from the setback provision allowing the sign to be installed at the proposed location. However, the current bylaw does not give us any opportunity to grant variances. As such, the building department is seeking direction from council regarding proceeding with this request.
So it's met all the requirements, it's just that our zoning bylaw it's far too close to the hamlet.
That's correct.
Well, our sign law.
Yeah, if you look at the picture there, it shows the distance it is from the settlement area, which is roughly 325 meters. Yes. We require 1,500 meters.
Okay. Councilor Marco?
Just to confirm, it's big, and I haven't drove by, is that a creek? And if it is,
yes,
it's on the other side of the creek, it's about 75 feet from the road.
It's on the north side of that creek, I forget the exact measurement from the.
About 24 meters.
Yeah.
Okay.
Councilor Burton?
Is 1,500 meters reasonable? I'm not sure why we put it so far out.
I'm not sure either.
But on the other hand, if we make an amendment to this one, are we setting an example for everything else? I just wonder if 1,500 is a reasonable number, and will that cause a problem later on for us if we?
That's not really a question I can answer.
Go ahead.
Sometimes they're pushed out because residents don't want to look at signs, especially when they're large. So that might be why it was established as being 1,500 meters. If you provide relief requested, then I would say there would be no formal precedent, but I would suggest you might be more difficult for you to turn down a future application on the basis that you've provided relief in this case, but it wouldn't be mandatory.
There are no homes near this, right?
No,
We're in the agriculture zone, but we're not taking up our home.
correct.
Okay.
And all the approvals are in place from other agencies that require them.
All right. Councilor Martin?
Is that not a home right above it, or is that an industrial site?
There is a home halfway between the settlement area and the sign. Don't quote me on this, but it would be probably half the distance between it and the settlement area, so it would be well over 100 meters.
Have they been informed that this is being discussed at all?
No.
Do we have anything that says how close you can put it to somebody's house?
Yes, in the bylaw, I believe it's 100 meters from.
Okay, so we're not outside that. And will it be lit?
No,
Does our sign bylaw speak to lighting of the?
I believe it does, yeah,
Okay.
we don't issue a lot of different signs, so I'm not.
This is all we do, isn't it? Did we create this bylaw not that long ago?
2019.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's how many requests we get.
Yeah.
Okay, so what would council like, Deputy Mayor Ryan?
Couple questions, going the other direction towards Woodham, it must be fairly close to Woodham too then.
There would be no place in between Woodham and Kirkland that a sign could be erected according to the provisions of our current bylaw.
And going towards Woodham, there's a residence. Maybe, it's probably as close, is it?
It's about halfway, I would think, yeah.
What would council like to do? Would you like to allow this one? Would you like to not allow it? Would you like him to look at the bylaw eventually to review the 1500? But that's not really on today's plate. Today is just about this. Councilor Marshall?
I'm assuming the county has a bylaw for signs. I mean, I'm sure they have a lot more traffic on their roads, so they would have more requests for these types of things. Do you know what that is offhand?
I do not, but county would have no say in this sign because it's a provincial highway.
It is interesting that the ministry did allow it, so it's met everything there.
No, I was just wondering, if the county had a 1500.
Kirk County does have a sign bylaw, but I can't.
I'm probably
Not sure why I thought you saw that on top of it. We're shot, little shot.
Councilor Martin?
I'd like to know Martin's recommendation on this, like, if the. As our resident expert, so.
I'm really indifferent.
I mean, for the 1500, is this, what I'm trying to clarify, did we set 1500 in a way that needs to be looked at?
Through the chair, we can review the sign bylaw, to see what neighboring municipalities have in terms of setbacks. Again, I don't issue a lot of these, so I can't, I'm not an expert on it. And this before you, we're asking for your guidance on this. I'm indifferent. I honestly, it makes no difference to me whether it goes there or it doesn't.
I guess I was just looking to understand where the 1500 came from. Okay. Okay.
Fred, Jeff?
Oh, just, you know, the bylaws adopted by council, we're just administering. You know, I wasn't here, I don't know if Martin was around when the debate took place, maybe Councilor Will, or Deputy Mayor Wilhelm was there. A staff recommendation, it will always be follow policy, right?
Lizette, did you comment?
So I can just add additionally, from what I remember, when we research bylaws coming forward to council, we do look at surrounding municipalities to see what kind of criteria they have in place, and we try to follow similar. At the time, I believe council was trying to avoid having big signs too close to built up areas, which is why the 1500 was put in place. But I don't think it was a specific number that was requested. It was something that we had found in our research that other municipalities used. So thank you. Welcome.
Deputy Mayor?
I'd like to refer this and find out from the neighbors what they think of it, because they're the ones that are gonna have to look at it. I recall, there was one sign put out on number 7 highway by St. Mary's. And it was put right on, basically on the property line. And one homeowner was very upset that it wasn't on his property. He couldn't do anything, but he had to look at it every day. And so I think it'd be good on our part to find out what the people that are gonna look at it day in, day out think of it.
So I'm sensing that we're going to defer this and ask you to bring, see if you can have a conversation with the neighbors. Sure. Comments. Do we need an official recommendation for that?
Never said, none that you defer.
Okay, so Rush, making a recommendation to request to defer, did you have more comment? Request to defer for the relief, so Martin brings back a bit more information. Moved by Councillor Mark Bell, second by Councillor Cordew, all those in favor? Yes. Thank you, Mark.
Great, thank you.
There's an interesting discussion happening outside there, so. All right, there are, it's 10:11. Everybody's impatient. Okay. So Ken, you are up.
Thank you, Mayor Orr. I want to report here for council. I've got some quotes on the replacement, mower. We have, two mowers we use for cutting, parks, landfill, the cemeteries, the, shops. Got, the low bid, for a Kubota Z422, which is very similar to the newer machine we have now, and it seems to be working fine. So recommending that we purchase the Kubota low bid that was received.
Any questions for Ken regarding this? Councillor Vanessa?
Just one question. These are, looks like they're 60-inch mowers, yeah? These are, it looks, according to pricing, these are probably residential mowers, so the one you have now is looking okay, instead of buying a commercial one?
Yes, the short answer, yes. Commercial one would be better. You know, there is a bit of a difference. I expect, you know, the more expensive one that was even provided, the John Deere, and there's a few different types of Skags even. You get what you pay for, definitely, and so our budget didn't allow for a more expensive one, and the one we have now, we have two Kubotas, and one's over 10 years old, and it's been working, meeting our needs. So,
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, I have a recommendation that the Township of Perth South award the zero turn mower tender results PW 2025-04 to DS Down Equipment Limited in the amount of $11,225 plus HST. Moved by Councillor Corview, second by Councillor Vanessa. All those in favor? Carried. Tracy, 8.3. I will put the accounts on the board. I have a recommendation that the accounts payable listed dated July 2nd, 2025 for the period June 15th to July 2nd, 2025 in the amount of $1,012,939.10 be approved. Moved by Deputy Mayor Willem, second by Councillor Corview. So the accounts are on the floor. Any questions for Tracy? Councillor Markfeld?
There's a Grand Haven Management Incorporated. Destroy weeds. What's it? I know it's not just weeds advertising, whole advertising.
Any other questions? Councillor Jeffo?
Canadian National, the vandalism. Something got fallen or damaged and we had to fix it.
Yeah, I can answer that one, through the chair. Yeah, we get, bills from CN and Goddard Chester for, maintenance on the crossings. Those are the regular ones. And now there was some damage or vandalism done to one. So we're just paying our share of the repair costs that they had to it. I tried to get some more information on it. It was vandalism. There was a CN police report number. But I'm not sure much more than that. Hard to get, I asked for a copy of it, but I'm not sure about. They passed it around a few different people, I'm not sure I'll get it, but I thought it might be good for traffic police to know if there's something, this way keep an eye on it so too, but. If I can find more information, that's what my plan was.
Well, thank you, Greg. It's just the first time I've seen vandalism as a line item.
Councillor Markfeld?
The asset evaluation, is that
for everything, buildings, operational, all of our
Just
stuff.
buildings.
Just buildings, and will that report back to us, or?
Sure.
Okay.
Go ahead.
There's looks like a cab and a hood replacement.
Sorry, I should clarify, not just buildings, so it would be things like the playground structure, parking lots, all of our fixed assets.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Parking lots as well, yeah.
Yeah.
All of them too.
Anything that's part of our asset management plan, that's what that report will inform in terms of financing future replacements or maintenance or that sort of event.
So like example, our asphalt's tearing apart, it needs to be replaced, that would be on there.
It's not, sorry, it's not roads, it's,
No, I mean like our parking lot.
so that would be land improvements, but that's not considered like, it would be part of the facility, so yeah.
Okay, yeah, there was a hood on. Oh, sorry, just trying to find, there we go. Humphrey Fleet Systems on the International, did it get dinged?
Yeah, I can add to that one. That's like some repairs from some winter damage from the snowplow. The wing came up and smashed the door. It's
Okay, last question. Did our discs more, the ones we bought, did they not come with blade knife shackets or?
yeah, I can, through the chair, respond to that one too. Yeah, so those are replacement parts for the mowers. Knives are replaced very frequently, rocks and stuff, that we hit hard on and stuff. So there's knives and then there's, called shock hub type of thing that is, a bit of a breakaway thing if it gets something hard. And we have some of those to replace every once in a while as well.
Okay, do you always have an extra set? It's just.
Keep one in the tractor, but
Okay.
absolutely. Replace them as needed.
Okay, thanks.
So the accounts are on the floor. Any more questions? All those in favor? All those in favor? Oh, wait, sorry. Carrie.
Thank you for reminding me.
Hey, we're at item D, the investment analysis. Do you want to take over?
Yeah. Or, yeah, this is just the annual investment report for the council. It's a breakdown that we had total cash and net investments of 9.73 million. Our average rate of return was 4.12, which was up from 2023. Investment income exceeded budget, $73,833. And senior staff plan on reviewing the investment policy in the fall along with the reserve fund policy. So we'll tie up with each other. So if there's any questions, we'd be glad to answer.
Anybody have any questions for Tracy regarding the report? None? Okay, easy. So the Council of Township of Perth South received the report dated 2024 annual investment report dated July 8th, 2025 for information purposes. Moved by Councillor Martin, seconded by Councillor Jeff Bell. All those in favor? Carried. We're at the clerk's report. Lizette. Thank you, Mayor Orr. My first report is regarding the recent legislative changes that were granted to municipalities effective May 1st. Perth South was one of the lucky winners of these strong mayor powers that have been granted. Most report is for your information, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. I'm still learning lots about this piece of legislation. I've also added a page to our website that does a brief overview of the strong mayor powers. Going forward, if the mayor decides to use any of the powers that are outlined under that legislation, the direction or decision needs to be in writing to the clerk and posted on repository, basically, so that the public and council can see those kinds of decisions. Yeah, if you have any questions, try to answer them. Any questions for Lizette regarding this?
Councilor Martin?
I don't have questions for Lizette, but are we gonna discuss it? Anything, like, I don't wanna pose any questions directly to you, but I'd like to go on the record, just, I have serious concerns with this. And it being extended, the fact, first off, let me say, I trust our mayor completely, but we're making a decision for future, and I understand that we have this already. And it's not a matter of whether anyone asked us if we wanted it or not. But, I would like to speak against it in the fact that the mayor can propose and adopt a budget, like, why are we all here? It just doesn't. It's too far, in my personal opinion.
So I can, so this information, this report is for the information of council. It's for you to understand a little bit more of what the mayor potentially can do. A mayor does not necessarily have to use the powers. The budget piece is, we have been seeing in the neighboring municipalities where, for example, a mayor has directed the budget process back to staff, and then it becomes part of the council process. There's also the ability for council to veto any mayor decisions on a budget. So there are legislative pieces in place to counter the strong mayor powers. It just, in my opinion, becomes a more onerous process for staff and council. But it's not necessarily something that the mayor has to use. Councilor Marco?
We see every meeting in the consent agenda about the opposition of this legislation. Where does that go? Does that just fall on deaf ears? It just goes to the province and like it's in the consent agenda every time. I guess my question is, would that just go up into the cloud and keep moving forward, or I mean, I don't really know who that's directed at. I just see it every time, and I'm wondering what's going on if all these smaller municipalities are against it.
So, the pieces of, the pieces of correspondence that you received, you are correct, it is, causing a lot of discussion, with the municipalities who've been granting this legislation. It, has been directed back to the mayor, the premier, as it's his government that, proposed this legislation. This legislation has been in effect since 2022, when it was granted to both the City of Toronto and City of Ottawa, and it's just been slowly expanded to other municipalities. So you have the opportunity to also express your opinion on this legislation. But the bottom line is it's in force and we have to work with it, whether we agree with it or not.
Right. So, sorry, to the mayor, so you're saying is we can send it out and write a letter and say we oppose it.
Yes.
But in reality, it doesn't really matter. Powers are still there, even if we oppose it.
Correct.
Like we oppose it in this room, but it doesn't really. Right, okay.
That's right.
We go on the record of opposing this, is that number being gathered by the province? Like if they're coming and saying, well, 50% of our municipalities have opposed this, or is EMO doing anything like it? Have you heard? Like, is there value in doing that? Because if we stay silent, then you're essentially voting the other party.
So through the chair, I know that AMO has been working on this because they have received a lot of conversation, a lot of correspondence on this piece of legislation. There's a lot of dissatisfaction with how it's being pushed forward. And they've been trying to advocate on, the municipalities who have it. They've to the province, so far, there has been no change in the direction. So
So from what I understand is, oh, sorry,
Just a question, was that, what is the fear of strong powers?
Um,
I'm not sure I'm against it, so I haven't read anything that would make me vote against it. So what is the fear out there for it, or of it? Sorry.
I think from the general kind of high level, indicators that I've seen in some of the training sessions and some of the question and answer groups that I've been participating in. A lot of it depends on the personality of the head of council. So currently, it takes away some of the broad powers. So hiring and firing of a CAO, for example, is something that the mayor has full power to do, whether council agrees with that or not. That's, I believe, not a veto option. That's something, so there are situations where I think, and again, I think it is dependent on the personality of the leadership role and how the council of the day is working together or not, that I think that's where the fear is coming from. It is, from a staff point of view, a lot of extra work, but I believe our council has, you know, a very open and frank discussion about things, so I don't think it's an issue. It's just maybe the whole point of it is to try and push forward, give the mayor more powers to push forward housing initiatives. I think that's like the huge, like the broad piece of it that this legislation is trying to do. And like from our standpoint, we don't have enough
So
going on.
it may apply to larger centers then, possibly.
I think it's more impacted there, yes.
All right, thank you for that.
You're welcome. Go ahead.
If I could, through the mayor, so some of the concern is around whether there's less of a democratic component of council decision making. So matters that were previously decided by the majority of council could now be decided by the mayor. So whether it's a budget or you know, human resource allocations, previously where the councils would make a decision in the majority, the council would not be involved in those decisions if the mayor chose not to include them. And the motivation really is that, you know, the province has been convinced that the councils are the problem. That the councils are in the way of advancing development, of approving housing developments or other interests that the provincial government has. And they see the councils as being easily persuaded by advocacy groups. And that in those communities where the province have offered funding for communities that have accepted housing targets in return for additional funding, they see the mayors as being in the best position to advance those sorts of initiatives in return for additional funding to the community. That's the rationale. In my experience in municipal government, I've never felt like municipalities are the obstacle. Usually municipalities run very efficiently on very lean budgets and usually process things very quickly. You heard Martin, you know, talk about how we're moving through things very quickly. I don't know where that comes from. It's probably a problem in larger urban centers, and probably less of a problem in places like the lower tier municipalities. My experience, I mean.
Excellent, thank you for that.
No problem, Deputy Mayor.
I read there, I think that the council by 2/3 majority can override the mayor's decision. Is that on everything or just on particular items?
Well, there are certain pieces of the legislation, I didn't print out my report, sorry, but so there are, in my report, it outlines things that council cannot overturn and then may overturn. So I think there are only 3 or 4 pieces in that, and that's a budget. Well, there is a veto process that council can, yeah, so it's just, again, to my mind, made things more complicated for staff. But anyway. Any more comments?
So I would agree with that. I think it has added a layer of, work to the staff. My intention is to go to AMO in August and, probably learn a bit more about what people are choosing to do. Currently, I'm not gonna do, I don't feel like I have to do anything. When we become, closer to the budget cycle, then I'm probably going to, pass it over to staff, but we're not officially doing anything till we're, closer to that. That is my intention. It's nothing else that I can see that it would help me or, but I can't give it up if I wanted to, so. As much as we can write letters and disagree with it or write letters in support of it, I think the province has made a decision, so. Any other questions regarding that? Do you need a,
I just had a recommendation to receive for information, but
So I have a recommendation that the report regarding strong mayor powers dated July 8th, 2025, be received for information. Moved by Councillor Vanessa, second by Councillor Jeff Bell. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, so we are at council remuneration for May 2025. I have a recommendation here that the report regarding the council payroll, May 2025, dated July 8th, 2025, including total payroll of $6,670.02 be approved. Moved by Councillor Markbell, second by Councillor Cordew. All those in favor? Carried. So we are at CAO Deputy Clerk. Brent, your is floor.
Thank you, your worship. This report is in response to, the Trouts who are here today. And their submission, back in April with some questions.
No problem, that's Captain.
Excuse me. Wishful thinking, Brent. Welcome to both of them. So this report is really in response to, when the Trouts were here back in April. Happy to answer any questions, but this is really in response to the questions that they provided to the council, and which were directed to me to answer.
Okay, I'll open it up to the council and then I'm gonna, wonder, I think you have a few questions for us, so I'll let you ask, but let's have the council, go ahead and ask any questions regarding the report first. Go ahead.
Yeah, just some, if I could ask some history, how did this start? Who owns it? It's really, we do, okay, well, that's good, that's a good start. And then it was just volunteers that keep it going and that's how it works, that's the structure. Okay.
That's my understanding generally.
Yes, go ahead.
I'll give some history that I know of and Robert and Kathy from the fact that, Upper Thames used to own this property. And, they did not want to own it any longer. So I think the, township will first sell it for $1 or whatever. And since then, volunteers have been, making trails and looking after it and trying to improve it each and every year. And
Just to say that it's an arboretum, so it's a collection of trees, shrubs and flowering plants native to our area. And it's used for education demonstration purposes, and it's a great spot for people to walk their dogs and enjoy nature and some peace and quiet.
Any other questions regarding the report? Councilman S.
Kind of ashamed to say this, but I've never been there. Is it comparable to the one in Mitchell on the glass? Titles and like different species of trees and shrubs are actually the named with pictures.
Yes, and we have labels on the trees that tell you what each one is, and we're in groups of usually what we wanted to have is a final standard of at least 3 trees of each species, but some of them we started off with 5, hoping we would at least have 3, and now we have like 10, sort of thing. So yeah, they're all labeled and have a map that shows the various trails and that, and we just completed an inventory so we can make up a map that shows actually where each species of tree is planted, so someone can go find them if they want to and see what those trees look like, and you know what's a tree look like when we get as big as something I want to plant, or you know that type of thing as well.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Go ahead.
Do you host groups, do you host like classrooms or?
Yeah, I've done, some outdoor education stuff with the, children that are homeschooled. There's a group that gets together once a week and I've done 3 sessions with them there. And I did a session with the 4-H Forestry Club there just about a month and a half or so ago as well. We could probably be doing more with them as well there. Okay, so,
Thank you.
Councilor Jeff.
Question, Girl Guides still coming out and planting trees, I know.
I'm sorry, I missed the first part.
Are the Girl Guides,
Oh,
still coming out? I know
Yeah.
my daughters spend a lot of time, or my one daughter spent a lot of time there.
yes, and unfortunately, there isn't a real active Girl Guide group in Kirkland, but yeah, they were very active and we still get some of the young people from the community helping us with things like mulching and those sort of things as well, so.
Okay, excellent.
We're still hopefully giving them something to do there as well.
Okay, good, thank you. Thank you.
Ken, could you just touch base on the stewardship tree program? That,
Yes, through the county, we got a grant, and to help cover the cost of, so we had a forestry professional in. And they're preparing a report on us. It's a similar type report that, I think they generate for woodlots. So it'll give us some information on, not just, there's a few components of that. It's a larger property, so the arboretum component is kind of out front. And when I showed him around, he really liked that area. Was pointing out lots of, the little unique things there, but then there's also on the other side of the creek or drain. There's a larger area there, there's a woodlot that he was going to, he was doing as part of his report too, so. I followed up with him a little while ago, he's still working on that, so, when that comes, we'll share that with council and, the committee. Just gonna be some information on the asset itself and maybe some recommendations on things we could do to improve it.
Kathy, you had some questions. Did you want to ask them now?
Yes, and it basically goes around the concept of connections and responsibilities. And where we stood within the framework of council. And I think Sue has covered that you're working on that with other groups also, like the community center and the pool committee. And just what that question was for us within your structure. So that was one question. And chain of communications, like, are we to go through the mayor or Mr. Bettles, or just, when we are looking for something, asking for something, that chain of communications, who's our contact person? And when we are working there, we are covered by insurance, is my understanding, but do you need a list of names of those who are part of this? Would be one of those questions. And to just question about the Brownies and Girl Guides. In the past, there was Nancy Trout and Deb Keel, who were leaders for the local guide community, and they wrote a lot of requests for help, funding of some kind, whatever the
Across
request.
Canada, all various different organizations, they apply for a lot of those grants for that.
Yes, so that was a lot of the earlier tree plantings, but we are not part of council, so we can't write those requests for programming and help. We have no weight to do so or right to do so. So how that might fall back onto council or triple staff to do those things as we see them come along, because we don't have that ability. We don't have that right to do that. So just those questions of moving forward. Again, is great. There's huge opportunity in refurbishing the area behind. And, bringing it back into the natural state.
Or even logging it, like, there's 75 acres back there, a lot of it's been reforested and white pine and black walnut, and that's an area that I've had a forester in to look at, and his assessment was that the trees were just way too thick. And that they were never gonna get to be big enough size to be able to be logged, but they're gonna just go straight up. And so this is something I'm hoping that this report will outline is, you know, what's the best thing to do, take out every other row or something like that. Just the management of it, because I think it can be an income generating thing as well. It's not just something to waste of land, there's these that are, you know, planted to be harvested and it should be.
Did somebody have a question here? Go ahead.
So is, I guess I maybe didn't realize that the portion on the other side of the drain was also part of it. So is the plan then to kick the four-wheelers out, or what's gonna happen with that?
Well, yeah.
Cause I know last time I was there,
Yeah.
walking through, that was the disruption. That's the reason I don't wanna get my dog there again, because all of a sudden out of across the creek comes a quad and startled all of us. And I ride it forward, so I get it, but
I've spoken with them.
Truly, that's in council's hands, not ours.
Yeah.
We have no control over that, we have no say.
Like, to be honest, they travel along the municipal drain there. They have a crossing there that's kind of a mess.
it is.
Will probably be, you know, made to be a little more stable there. If it was gonna be left as a crossing there, we need some kind of crossing to go across that municipal drain. There is no bridge or culvert or anything like that across there. So access to that 75 acres has always been through the neighboring property. And that's how I got the forester in there to look at it before as well. And they travel in a little path along the municipal drain there. And they do have a trail that goes all the way back through that 75 acres as well, and goes back, I think, to a property owned by Tim Shoot back in the back corner, so is how they access that. And I'm not sure what that trail looks like back in there, but as you have noted, you know, it was rather disruptive there where they're going through the arboretum. And I was surprised at one point where I saw 4 of them come there. They were at the crossing, and I heard them coming along before I saw them. And yet, after I spoke to them and said, you know, we really is supposed to be an area of peace and quiet and repose type thing. They all 4 of them left, and I didn't hear a peep out of those machines. So they can be operated quietly. And yeah, I don't know. It depends on what council's feeling as far as that property use is concerned. That is a legit use of property. 4-wheelers, we need to go somewhere tonight.
Brandon, would you like to comment on?
I can just go through the merits in terms of the CGL, the commercial general liability. We don't need names of individuals that are volunteering on municipal property. The coverage covers people who are acting on municipal property and advancing the interest in the township.
All right, thank you.
So I have a question then, if this group, you have a little over $8,000 in account here. Would we ever put spending parameters on that, or how does it work if they wanted to make some business, needed access to that money? Do they come to council? How do you see that working?
Through you. So staff would not have authority to release those funds, in my view. If there was a request from the group that wanted to access the funds, I would expect it to come to council and request to release the funds with some rationale, and if the council is comfortable with what they hear, then they would release the funds. This is, you know, the nature of this sort of informal relationship, which I think is initially what the Trouts and Aston Parker also wanted some clarification on. At the moment, there is really no formal. So as I say in the report, the group is not considered a council committee. There are no terms of reference that we are aware of. There is no mandate for the group that the council has imposed on. It's sort of, I would call it grassroots. And you know, the more formal step would be to create a committee of council with terms of reference that would be, you know, more prescriptive in terms of the operations of the committee and the mandate that the committee might have. But it's really a matter of how much oversight the council wants to have with what's happening there. And whether the council has, the interest in developing a more formal vision for the property. And, if so, then whether a group could be tasked to advance those initiatives. But at the moment, there really is not a sort of framework, for either the group that I'm aware of, in any event, and, you know, maybe the group does have a vision or mission statement, but I'm not aware of that. So
We have a lot of ideas.
yeah, so you know, there's this balance that, you know, you're always trying to strike between encouraging community groups to take up causes. And then perhaps over-regulating them by making them council committee and then imposing terms of reference and so on and so forth. You know, it really depends on the balance that the council is most comfortable with. You know, a lot of it relates back to the transparency and accountability around public dollars or public investment, right? So if the council were to allocate funds annually, say to this account, you know, what instrument would the council lean on to ensure that those funds are in fact appropriately spent and invested in a way that the council sees fit. But again, it's really an issue of comfort with the council and you know, whether you think you're at a point that you know, maybe you want to develop a master plan for your arboretum, which might then inform the work of a committee to advance the initiatives identified in a master plan. I mean, we're talking about a master plan, I'm not talking about, you know, a huge initiative, but something to work with. You know, the report that Ken made reference to might actually provide some guidance as to, you know, what maybe there's some invasive species somewhere that they're recommended be removed, and you know, maybe that'd be sort of part of one low hanging fruit that could happen in the short term. But it's more of a sort of a bigger picture kind of idea. You know, it's a community asset. It's not something that I think that the staff can give you a whole lot of direction in terms of identifying priorities. You know, it's a priority for the council. Is it an area that they see as expanding what the group is already doing in terms of educational opportunities or creating, you know, walking paths or interpretive components? It's a matter of a council priority. And, you know, I did include in the report, you know, the very generic reference to the strategic plan, which is really a component of, you know, the quality of life interest that the council adopted as part of the strategic plan. I'm certainly happy to provide guidance and recommendations, but that's sort of a high level.
Mayor Wilhelm?
Yeah, I'd like to see this continue with the group with the way it's going right now. One thing I would like to see is that we do have some plans for some investment requiring dollars. Perhaps it could be brought to Ken and he could bring a report to council to ensure that it is transparent and we have a full understanding.
Councilor Corbin?
Yeah, I don't think we need to be involved in the day to day, but maybe something as big as logging the back 75 acres. Do we need to be involved in it, or like, I mean, that's money that could go into the reserve for betterment of the arboretum, but at what point do they decide? Like, do they decide on their own to log the back bush, or they know better what it needs than we do, really?
Kathy? We have no desire to be involved in that back path, we're not logging, that's on you guys. So to my understanding, if we were to log that, we'll wait till this report comes from Ken. Potentially we could log it, potentially we could bring in some money. I would think that would stay in the Kirkton Arboretum account. And then if I'm gonna call you Friends of the Arboretum, come back and say, hey, I wanna build a wheelchair access path, that maybe would happen, or you wanna plant more trees or make improvements. I think you're looking at my signs, so, I mean, that money might then be available to you. Councilor Bell.
I just said, as far as schedule, Do we know when this is coming back, or you expected it already, this report?
I would expect it in the next couple months. Yeah.
Okay, so if you ever know, go ahead.
One small ask, and I don't know who to ask, might we be able to get the township logo in a nice size, laminated, so you can put in a sign for it?
We can have them all that.
We could try.
We can laminate up to 11 by 17,
So 8.5 by 11 or whatever the proper shape is for the logo, laminated. And I say laminated because I'm not sure it's totally waterproof inside there. Enclose it in there for that, and then we'll get the additional tree species listed there.
And I do know the county has a program where they were making, steel frames and then putting the name, and then people went around and had their picture with the steel frame, so it's just about promotion. So if they do a second round of that, I can mention that you potentially like people to stop in. So it's a great area, I enjoy the arboretum, and you guys do a great job. Really appreciate what you do. Go ahead.
sorry, so just to clarify, Ms. Barker's request, so is council already, I can work with Kathy to share that logo, or we can print off something and laminate, so I can work with Kathy if council's fine with that.
Go ahead.
I'll leave it in your hands, and then it's in the way that you would like it, to be placed.
So if you just want,
Just an 8.5 by 11.
Just the logo?
Just your township logo, so they recognize who actually owns it.
yeah, we can do that.
And I do know the group helped us out last year. I think we're doing, every other year between, Downey and Blanchard for the tree per south. So I really do appreciate, you have a lot of members out there. So, thank you for doing that. This year it will be here though in September, but feel free to come and help us here.
Sure.
Okay, any other questions, comments? All right, I have a recommendation here, the report for the Perth Arboretum dated July 6, 2025, be received for information. Moved by Councilor Corby, second by Mark Bell. All those in favor? Very good. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
I also wanted to mention, it's come to my attention that Fred is with us for 2 years. This last week.
Oh. Time flies.
Yeah. Well, I congratulated him on his 1 year anniversary, he goes, it's been 2, and I went, oh. Time flies. Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, I am at the monthly mayor's report, I didn't actually see that here.
Oh, your correspondence.
So, correspondence, any correspondence? No. None?
Well, other than what I've been sending, so, as council may be aware, we've been starting to receive some emails, from some of the residents at Simmingville. I've been passing those along, but they will also be going on to the consent agenda, and actually, that, anyway, yes, so the next available consent agenda, I've let them know that they've also been circulating them to the Township of Perth East and the county, so.
I also noticed there was an email, I think it went out to all the council for the IESO, energy. There's gonna be a webinar July 17th, so I'm planning on attending. If anybody else would, that would be good. Nothing else then? No? Council reports. Councilor Vanessa, you wanna start?
Yeah, that's good start. First off, I'd like to say thanks to Ken and the people in Public Works. They replaced a culvert on 125. Did a wonderful job there. Very impressed.
And thanks for pass that on.
Hopefully that has time to settle before they come in to pave it. I don't know if you have to put water on it to settle the gravel, I'm not sure, but, yeah. And then the other thing is, and I may be speaking for all councillors, is I've received a bunch of emails from some residents of Sebringville. I have not responded to the emails. I've also received some calls from some residents there. It appears that there's some misinformation in the community. I'm not sure if it's being spread on purpose or it's just a way to rile things up. I'm not sure how that is. I'm wondering if the possibility exists that person could put I don't communicate, that's not the right word, but, put something on, get involved and on the First South, Facebook page, what the future holds for the next few months or 6 months. Where we are in the process and where we're going and what steps we're taking. It appears that some of the people in Seymourville believe that all the answers should be out the first month of Class EA. And they're frustrated the answers that are there, and yet we're not at that part of the operation yet. There's also been some erroneous information out that First South has hired a contractor to do the new road. As far as I know, that is completely false. If that is true, then I hadn't heard that. And yeah, I don't know where to go with this. I'm frustrated, the people I talk to, once you have a conversation with them, they kind of believe what you're saying, but there's so much misinformation out there, they don't know what's going or what's not happening. And I'm not sure how to deal with that. Any help from anybody else would be more than welcome.
Just regarding Stephenville, do you wanna have does anybody else have any comments about how we're gonna deal with this? Go ahead.
Yeah, if you wanna open the floor with that.
I'm open.
Yeah, that would be, I agree with Jim, I was gonna say much the same thing. I also got calls, people who were quite angry because they were stirred up by misinformation. So wondering how we can be transparent about where phase 3 is at and where, Station Road is at. Because when you get on to the get involved site, there's limited information there. Like the only thing that speaks to the road that I could find was the small paragraph on the traffic study in the Baker report. So I don't know if there's more information that we could put up in the interest of transparency.
I can ask Fred to comment, but I would like to say, I feel that there is misinformation out there. I feel that we're constantly attacked. I know I am, that I'm okay with it. Like, I don't, we have done nothing wrong, and we're moving forward as the process has been laid out for us. I feel that we do tack on when we say, oh, can we get staff to do this? Can we get staff to do that? Maybe, like Lizette has had so much on her plate when it comes to the strong mayor powers and all of this. Maybe there is an opportunity for us to, as a council, look at hiring somebody to be our, that would take control of our Facebook page or get involved. I'm not saying we hire another staff member, maybe we have to do a contract position, maybe that's a way around it. Because to ask the staff every time there is a accusation that we're doing something wrong, it's taking away valuable time that they should be doing their jobs. And I'm kind of getting protective of staff for the amount of time that they have to deal with this, and I'd rather control the story and put it out, as Councillor Vanessa said. So here's the stage that we're at. But we're asking the staff to do that. So if council is in favor of looking at potentially having somebody as a contract position to do all of the updates when it came to anything, that is potential, but that is also cost to the taxpayers. I did this morning, ask somebody who does social media for another company I know. They range from $35 to $50 an hour. I threw out the idea and I'm just saying, this was just off the top of my head. They said they would probably need $10 to 10 hours a week to do a good job. But once they got onto it, it might go down from that. So that is the potential that we could ask staff to bring a report back to see if we want to go that route to argue with. I don't really want to get in arguments on Facebook, but to this is where we're at, but we do get attacked on Facebook a fair bit, but I'm Councillor Vanessa.
When it comes to social media, I have no problem being attacked at all. I'm a big boy, attack with shoulders. It pisses me off though when they attack staff. They have no right to do that. Staff is hired by council. And if the community, wherever you are out there, attack me, I'm quite fine with it. Leave staff alone. Staff works under, I believe, under the direction of the CEO, who works under the direction of the mayor and the council, and they should be left alone.
And I do appreciate when people call us out for transparency and they don't sign their name. I'm having a bit of a help with that. So I appreciate the emails that did come to us this week with the names on. Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, I agree with Councilor Vanessa. I think that, you cannot answer every email that comes out because, a lot of them are not based on truth. And like you say, we cannot continue to argue. We had, or the developer and everyone had an open house. They had the opportunity in Cedarville. I thought everything was laid out exceptionally well. They answered the questions. So until we take the next phase is completed, to my thinking, there is no answers. There should be 0 questions until the next phase. You cannot get answers before it's completed. And so unfortunately, you're gonna have to be patient and wait. As far as I'm concerned, the staff are doing a great job. The developer's doing his job. Baker Planning's doing their part. Esmo's doing their part. BM Ross is overviewing it along with staff. So like we could bring in, a person to answer all these continually. We could also bring in someone to review BM Ross and oversee what Esmo's doing. But there's additional costs, and so far I haven't seen where anyone's doing anything improper. And we are taking the proper steps, and we should just continue the way we're going. And if there's an issue arises, we'll deal with it then.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Welcome. Any other comments? Councilor Jethro?
I just wanted to say I support everything that Councilor Vanessa and Councilor Deputy Mayor Rohan said. I support that completely.
So I'm hearing we're not going to look at having staff bring back a report for having people to put more stuff on Facebook. It takes a lot of time. Getting involved needs to be updated as we have, but again, if there's no new information, there's no new information. I'm not sure where to go from here. Councilor Corley?
And I agree with Bob. I mean, if you didn't want to have an open mind and go to the open house and learn more about the process, then that's your own fault. And fear mongering isn't gonna make this any better, so I agree 100%. We're in a process and we have to follow the process.
Okay, enough discussion about Searingville. We'll go on to more council reports, or would anybody else like to? Do you have anything else?
Oh, that's it.
Okay, Councilor Jethro?
Pretty quiet. I did take the drive because frankly, last Thursday I was curious about what was going on at the biomass. So by the time I got there shortly after 4, no fire, no Mr. Environment. As I said in the email, smoke was down from there, from Martin's original picture, but smell was not great. Did go by yesterday, most of it's spread now, it's probably all spread by today, but the pile was still smoldering a little bit yesterday. But yeah, I think that's the first time I've heard of that happening, so that was a really unique situation.
I think that's the first time I've heard that.
So
unfortunate.
Out of curiosity, was there any feedback from Minister of Environment?
Sure.
Not that I'm aware of.
I can maybe add a little bit, because I asked Martin, talk about this more, if they were, it was the Ministry of Agriculture, somebody he was talking with, and they have had this happen before with that type of product. Something that fits within the system, but causes issues, I guess.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Councilor Martin? Deputy Mayor Wilhelm?
All's quiet.
Yeah, the chamber, Canadian Chamber of Commerce, went to Washington DC. We thought as a chamber board would provide productive to send Aaron Martin, our general manager, down there to have some, see what's going on. It was a productive trip. Brendan, at our annual, after our annual general meeting last month, outlined what happened. It was good dialogue. Really nothing to report, obviously, but just wanted to report that he was there and had some, I would say, productive discussions. Outside of that, yeah, just the same cerebral stuff. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Councillor Corbin?
Pretty quiet. I was here early this morning, Scott was inside, and the roads are in good shape. Can't complain about too much right now, so it's all good.
All right, I just wanted to say I've got some great comments back from the pool. The pool seems to be functioning and with this heat, people have certainly appreciated that we got it open just a little earlier. So congratulations to Cassie for getting that going. I think eventually I'd like to see us have a strategic plan review based on what we were having there this morning, so maybe we could do that for September or October. I also wanted to point out that Aaron Martin, just because you brought his name up, he is going to be one of the guest speakers at Municipal Day in November, and it will be in West Perth. So I've had some Zoom calls there with Lizette on that, so it looks to be a good event. I wanted to mention that this morning I was asking people because I was trying to remember from last year when we set the meeting schedule for July. We did set it with 2 dates. But if I remember correctly, we were also stating that we were, if there was a lot on the agenda, that we would then be having a meeting, and if there wasn't a lot on the agenda, we wouldn't be having a meeting. So from what I understand from Haley and from Brandon, there isn't anything to do with drains or planning. So I'm wondering, and I know that will be away for the next meeting. So I'm wondering if we want to cancel the July meeting and move everything. There isn't too much. Is there anything that you need? So we could cancel the July meeting and move it to the first meeting in August, or August 5th. What is the view of council to do that?
The only issue that we're managing is the accounts. I don't know if we could get some direction. Or if council could delegate to the mayor approval of the accounts to allow us to process them.
Or we could email the accounts, if we had any questions. It would be an actual approval, but they could ask their questions if there was something on there. If we weren't gonna have anything, that'd be an option.
I'm not opposed to having a meeting, but I have a feeling it would be less than a. Go ahead, Councilman.
So how did we do it before? We just had one.
We just had one, but if you remember last year, it went really, really long one day, so then we said, well, let's try to avoid that.
No, but I was talking about the accounts.
I think it was the middle of the month, right, so it kind of split them. I believe, I've never looked anywhere at the accounts of the council, so it's all new to me.
So what would council like to do? Councilor Bennett?
I'd love to stick with it because I won't be here.
You're not here, okay? Councilor Gordon?
As far as accounts go, I mean, we just pay the accounts. Sue can give the okay on it. I have no issue with it. It's not like we say we shouldn't have paid that. We've never done that, so staff does a good job on it, and if council wants to see the accounts receivable on an email or accounts payable on that email, I'm fine with that too, but I don't need to hear it okay in the accounts
Not that I follow other councils, but I think West Perth just did cancel their last one, but some, as you just said, some other councils don't bring their accounts payable to the council. It's just adds another step for staff, so. It's maybe something we should review if we need to keep doing that, we have her just bring reports on important subjects. So what is the opinion of staff for the July meeting? Do you want to meet? Counselor Jeffa?
I don't, doesn't sound like we need to.
I would agree with Jeff, unless something arises, I don't see any need to have a meeting in July.
Okay, we will keep the August meeting on. You need a motion for that?
Yes, because I'll need to, cancel that meeting.
Okay, Counselor Jeff Bell, would you like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we cancel what's the July date?
July 22nd.
The July 22nd regular council meeting.
Okay, moved, seconded by Deputy Mayor Wilhelm, all those in favor? Carried. All right, so we have canceled the line meeting. Okay, we're at 10.2, recommendation that the mayor's update report for May 2025 be received for information. Any questions? It's really short. I'm not planning on doing that again. That was all booked ahead of. Okay, so. Did I already do the mayor's update report? I'm gonna move her in a seconder for my report, moved by Councilor Vanessa, second by Deputy Mayor Wilhelm, all those in favor? Carried, I think. Bylaws, the recommendation that the bylaw 2825 be a bylaw for drainage works known as the Hepburn Drain Branch 8 be given the first and second readings, moved by Councilor Jeff Bell, second by Councilor Vanessa, all those in favor? Carried. And any announcements?
It's Family Fun Day this weekend, Saturday here at the park. If you're around or know anybody that wants to come, it's fantastic, it's really well done, Nancy Castle's barbecue, like good family fun and all free.
And did you get enough volunteers?
So,
Okay.
yeah, I shouldn't say all free, the food has a cost, but the activities are free.
Okay, thank you. Any other announcements? Okay, any noticing motion? Other business, question in the public period, confirmatory bylaws, so confirmatory bylaw that the bylaw 2925 be a bylaw to adopt and matters dealt with resolution by the Township of Perth South, given first, second, and third readings, and be properly and sealed. Number 5. Councilor Cordy, second by Deputy Mayor Wilhelm, all those in favor. And Councilor Vanessa has to declare a conflict there, or not? No, just don't go wrong. Okay, an adjournment that the meeting does adjourn at 11:50 a.m. Moved by Councilor Marco, second by Councilor Cordy, all those in favor. Carried. Thank you very much.
And I'd like to read it.